Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Jamie here. I want to say a very warm welcome to you. Thanks very much for joining me in today's live. If you happen to be tuning in, welcome. This is the first time on the channel. For those of you watching via the old YouTubes, welcome. My name's Jamie. I'm a full-time affiliate marketer and a coach for a program with over 550 students. If you're interested in learning more about what we're up to in there, feel free to hit the old link in the description there. Smash that subscribe button as well if you'd like to learn more about affiliate marketing from a fundamental basis. All right, everyone else, thanks for tuning in. For those joining me in my group, drop a hashtag live. If you happen to jump on the live, drop a hashtag replay if you happen to catch the replay, and smash that heart button. Just gets the message a bit further out to the algorithm. Appreciate it. All right, so this is a follow-on on my last video, which covered some of the ways that you can attract buyers in your affiliate marketing business. So I'm going to ramp things up a little bit this time and basically go through some of the content types and what you can start adding to your content in order to start bringing those people out of the woodwork from your audiences. So if you haven't seen the first one, go back and check that out. Some pretty cool stuff on, I guess, how to attract the peeps. And this one's going to be a bit of a follow-on. So like I say, smash that heart button, drop some comments. Let me know where you're tuning in from and any questions along the way. I'm going to do a bit of a Q&A at the end of this. And you guys are hopefully going to learn a bit of stuff along the way. Right, jumping straight into it. After I learn how to add this to my screen. Because clearly it doesn't count if I'm not all operatic, right? Turns out I just need to press the button. Silly me. All right, here we go. So I'm going to hopefully, hey, welcome. Unfortunately, it just says Facebook user, but I sincerely appreciate you tuning in. Must be quite late where you are, so that means all the more to me. Right, here we go. So how to attract your ideal clientele? Right, like I say, this is a bit of a follow-on from what I was running through yesterday, and essentially it's taking what you're already doing and just adding a few little special herbs and spices into the mix to start really drawing those people out of the woodwork that you want to work with. And so the caveat with all this, by the way, is that you do need to have some form of audience. Doesn't need to be huge. You're better off having, 10 people that are wanting to work with you than 1,000 that don't, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. So the very first part of it is you want to polarize your audience. And if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's basically that thing of pushing away the people you don't want to work with, pulling towards you the people that you do want to work with. For example, I personally don't want to work with victims. If you've got a victim mentality, it's not, we're not the right people, right? So don't head over to jgcall.com because that would mean that you would get a free case study on how to do the old affiliate marketing and have an option to book a call there, but only if you're not a victim. All right. So the other thing is that it's really important because, again, if you're just someone who's an information giver, you're not really helping yourself because you're not being clear about who you want to focus your efforts on in terms of helping, right? So, and I should have just done the bloody slide instead of just rattling that off. So that's the thing. A lot of people get stuck in this trap, and the trap is, cool, I'm just going to keep chucking out all this value. But what happens is if you're not making offers and you're not polarizing your audience, you're not like pushing away the people you don't want to work with, you're sort of just like an info giver. And so therefore, when you finally decide, you know what, I'm going to start trying to make a few offers. Now that I've got an audience, I'm going to start throwing out a few offers to my audience. And what tends to happen is people go, what? What is this blasphemy? I can't believe it. I'm shocked and appalled. How dare they? I thought they were just giving info for free forever. And so here's the thing. As Ian Stanley puts in some of his marketing, in fact, I think there's actually a module in one of his courses, if I'm not mistaken, and it basically says, don't be a boring piece of shit in your marketing. I'm not going to be that harsh with you guys. I think, a bit more, give you a bit more of a empathetic air and whatever there, but truth be told, no one buys boring. So I'm not saying that don't go out there and go out of your way to be disingenuous. Like if it's not you to be out there a little bit, then you don't need to be that, but you can still add a few things in here, which is going to be the polarity, which I'm going to cover. Right. When you do polarize, it shows strength and leadership. And strength and leadership is what people want when they are looking to buy something. Because they, especially when it comes to this online world, if you're just one of the masses, then you're not differentiating yourself from your audience, right? So they think, oh, okay, that person's just like me. There's no reason for me to follow them. There's no reason for me to buy from them, all that sort of stuff. However, if you are a leader, they're looking for leadership. They're looking for knowledge, looking for strength and support. So by adding polarity, it shows that you've got the confidence to express your opinions, be yourself, just be out there a little bit. And that in itself is really compelling. The other thing is authenticity commands respect. So if you're, again, trying to be something that you're not, it's very, very hard to hold on to that, especially if you're bullshitting. People will sniff it out a mile away. And so if you're just yourself, but you just happen to be conscious of some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, and you start adding a little bit of a sprinkle of that into your content, then it's going to be massive in terms of how you relate to your audience, how you attract the people you want to work with. Right. So this next slide is actually something that I did on my profile. You're welcome to check it out. It was called Polarizing Pikachu, but you are still going to get tons of value out of these things here. Right. So there's 9 different ways, or it's probably more than that, but there's 9 ways that I'm going to discuss here of how to polarize your audience. So one way is shock. Now, I wrote up a funny, well, I thought it was very funny because I believe I'm funny sometimes, and my wife tells me I'm funny all the time. So more like funny looking though. Anyway, so if you want reference to what I'm talking about here, go snoop my profile and have a look at this stuff. But anyway, hence why the reason I'm using the Pikachu stuff. So anyway, the shock. Pikachus eat their offspring. They probably don't. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is when you are adding shock value to your content, it creates curiosity for a lot of people. Look at newspapers, right? They, especially Fox News in particular, any of their networks, like they use shock factor all the time. And what does it do for our human brain, our little old ancient brain? It makes us go crazy. We want to learn what happens at the end of that shocking headline, right? Controversy, the dark underworld. Pikachus really peak and hardly chew. I don't know what that means, actually. I'll be honest. So anyway, but controversy. If you have controversial opinions, and I'm not saying go out of your way to make them up just to be controversial. I'm saying if you genuinely have controversial things happen, then think about ways that you can add that to your content if you're comfortable to do so. You don't have to, by the way. I'm not suggesting that you need to add all 9 of these things to be polarizing. Just take 1 or 2 if you want. Hyperbole, which for many years I used to think was hyperbole. I still do. I'm still not convinced it's actually hyperbole. But anyway, apparently it's hyperbole. So guess which famous president I was trying to rip off when I wrote that line. Pikachu's the best, tremendous, the greatest. Anyway, there was a terrible, terrible rendition of said person, which I will not say the names just in case I get, I don't know, SWAT teams in my house or something. Anyway, moving right along. So hyperbole, but like look at a sales page, look at a headline, look at any ad that's run, all that sort of stuff. You'll see it all the time. It's just this huge expressional language, I should say, of the thing. It's tremendous. It's great. It's amazing. You're gonna get so much benefit from it. It's gonna be incredible. But that ironically does actually work. Tragedy. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that you use something horrible that's happened in the world or whatever to add that to your content and play on the negative. However, what you can do is you can, as it suggests there, you can basically look at micro tragedies. For example, stubbing your toe. Something most of us can relate to. A hangover. It's a micro tragedy. A dent in your car, a scratch on your car. You were late to work. It's a micro tragedy. So these things, they're relatable. And exactly as I probably with all those things I just said, most of you guys going, yeah, I stub my toe all the time, man. It's such a tragedy. It really is, right? But having that type of thing in your content on a sporadic basis. Don't put it in there all the time, because it's not about playing on the negative. It's about basically putting it in there in a way which makes it relatable. All right, what else we got? Comedy. How do you fit Pikachu on a bus? Pokemon. Classic dad joke. Brilliant. I'm gonna remember that one and say it as often as I possibly can, because I love it. No, I'm kidding. So comedy. You can use comedy as part of your content. I try to use it. I personally think I'm funny. The popular opinion may be left to, I don't know, may not agree with that. That's where I was going with that. Anyway, you get the point. So comedy, if you happen to be funny, or even if you're not, you can still use it. Taboo. So again, this creates that type thing, which is probably very closely related to both shock and controversy as well. So yeah, again, you have to read the post to put this in context, because now that it's out of context, it just seems fucking weird, actually. But anyway, Pikachu's royal lineage is said to contain 88% of his own bloodline. Oh, gross, Pikachu. Anyway, now that it's out of context, it just makes me seem like a weirdo. But anyway, taboo. There you go. Now, it doesn't need to be on that level either. It can be just things that are not usually spoken about, that are things people don't want to speak about. It could be just things like of perhaps the sexual nature, for example. And again, don't think for a moment I'm suggesting that you start adding like all sorts of like dirty talk into your content. It's just, let's be honest, sex sells, right? So like it's there, but it's not really spoken about that much. Something esoteric. Now, I don't necessarily mean that something esoteric, it doesn't have to be super like spiritual or anything like that. What esoteric means is something that the masses won't get. And so the reason why this works really well is if you can relate it to something that only a small subset of the population will understand, and that's then they're going, yeah, I get you, that's the good one, man. Then that's who you're speaking to, and so you can find those people, and you can get more and more of them, and they're going to be loyal fans. Contrast. So Pikachu's current stature is a stark contrast from his fighting days. So anyway, with contrast, that would be things that you have done, and then you can be contrasting to that. Prime example in my world is I used to smash chatbots all the time. I've got bunches of them. I've got all sorts of sequences out there. I don't really touch them anymore since Facebook has changed the way that you can use them. I do still have them. I don't really leverage them all that much. So that is contrast to what I was preaching maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I was really into chatbots at the time. Contrast. Things happen, right? Sometimes your business just evolves. Confirmation of suspicions. So think about when you get that feeling and it's like, yeah, I knew all along. Yep. You didn't have to tell me because I already knew it. Well, if you can start adding things like that, and you're going to have to get pretty creative with a lot of the stuff, by the way, but it's really quite amazing when you start thinking of these things, how you can actually start adding them into your content. But anyway, confirmation of suspicions, how can you add that into your content? Confirmation of suspicions was, for me, like some of the programs that I've seen pop up in 2020. My suspicion was that they were pieces of shit and they were going to disappear in a couple of months, and lo and behold, that's not the same. Woe and behold. Moving on. Point being is that's confirmation of my suspicions. So when I have seen certain things like blow up in a bad way, I'm like, haha, I knew it. Not in a bad way, I don't mean that, like I'm not laughing at people and things that have happened and the people that have invested in things, but there's been a few things that have confirmed my suspicion. So when you add this to your content, again, what you're doing is you're speaking to the small subset of people that would be like, I knew it all along. Yeah. Knew Mark Zuckerberg was listening to me the whole time. So here's some stuff to add into your content. Now, one of the analogies I used recently is of if everyone's swimming in a lake and you're trying to sell to everyone else in this lake, but in their mind, you're on the same level, right? So from a psychological perspective, you're not seen as a leader. You're not seen as like a thought leader or whatever it is, right? And maybe if you're relatively new, you're not going to have the accolades to back yourself into being someone that has climbed out of the lake. So therefore, their reasoning for wanting to buy from you is probably pretty minimal. However, ways that you can start creating your own mojo, I guess, is doing things like taking ownership of your achievements. Now, these can be tangible things, like, had $5,000 days. I'm a coach for a program with over 550 students, things like that. And I understand, depending on what part of the world you're from, this goes against a lot of what we're our upbringing. A lot of us suffer from tall poppy syndrome, where we don't want to be, like putting ourselves out there too much, just in case we get lopped off. But you kind of have to. Because what you're effectively doing is and it's not about an ego thing, by the way. I'm not saying, oh, look at me, I'm so good. Go me. It's nothing like that at all. In fact, the opposite. But what you are trying to do is, from a psychological perspective, you're trying to create that, I think the word is dissension. That's what I'm going with. Now, I might have just made that up, actually. I do like to practice my big words sometimes, so I might have just made that. Anyway, what you're trying to do is create a differentiation, let's use that one, from the audience. Hopefully that makes sense. So don't dwell on the negative. This is something that I have actually, interestingly enough, I've learned recently. So what I was doing is I would leverage the setbacks I've had in my business over the years, which has been a multitude of them. And I would put that in my content on a fairly sporadic but somewhat regular basis. Now, what I failed to do was talk about the achievements on the other side of that to the same degree. And so I would put more weight on the negative than I had on the positive. And what I was effectively doing is, I didn't realize this until it was pointed out, and I kind of started thinking about things. It was like, oh shit, I'm actually dwelling on the negative here, like massively. I'm almost painting myself like, oh, what a martyr. I've had so many setbacks, go me. But it was never meant to be like that. But what you can do is you can leverage your setbacks, leverage the things that haven't worked well, but instead of like dwelling on them being the setback and, oh, woe is me, and, I went bankrupt, and failed bloody relationships, and you name it, my life has been hard, woe is me. It's about, look, I started from here, shit was fucked up, now I'm here, things are awesome. And talk about the awesome stuff, by the way. Like, again, take ownership of the achievements along the way. Because what's the point? You can't just dwell in that negative shit all the time. You got to elevate yourself and then tell your crowd about the elevation as well. Call out your ideal audience. What I see a lot of people not doing. So, for example, who are you calling out by your profile? Who are you calling out by the way that you're communicating? Are you calling out people that are wanting to invest in themselves, that don't play the victim, that are prepared to put in the work, that don't fuck around? Or are you calling out people that are continually in victim mode, that always seem to be broke, that always have like no money, and they think that everything online should be done for free? You got to fuck those people off. And I mean that respectfully as you possibly can with that sentence. But the point being is that you want to call out who you would like to work with. Who do you want to work with? Who is your people? Call them out. Don't be shy about it either. I only work with people that are willing to invest in themselves. I only work with people that don't fuck around. I only work with people that are grateful, that are respectful, all that sort of stuff, right? And put that into your content. So here's the thing. You got to elevate your thinking and your energy and your focus. So this one is when you're doing things with intentionality behind your content and actually putting energy into your content, and you think, all right, well, I'm calling out my ideal audience. I'm not going to dwell on negative. I might use that as like part of my game plan, but I'm not going to dwell on that. And I want to take ownership of this shit that I've done, which is fucking amazing. How do I put this on the page? How do I do it? And when you start focusing on that stuff, what's going to happen is the quality of your content is now going to be elevated just from that, because you're focusing on how can I impact people, not just, oh shit, it's Thursday, I need to put out some content today. You're concentrating on how you can impact your audience. And when you do that, your energy flows into that in a more congruent way. And purely based off that, you're going to impact people. You're going to reach people in a different way. I know I'm getting kind of a little bit hippie on it, but it is super important because when you elevate your thinking rather than going, oh shit, how do I oh man, I hope this piece of content's good. Oh gosh. And you just go, no, I know who I want to work with. I'm going to focus on reaching them, and how can I, level with them. I'm going to concentrate my energy into that. Good things will start happening in a very rapid way as well. So throw rocks at your enemies. Caveat being, if you have rocks to throw. Secondary caveat, use with caution. Don't rely on this as well. And this is something that I've seen pop up a lot in relatively recent times. It's like people going, oh, well, like, gurus suck and blah, blah. Gurus are using this thing now that I developed and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes there's probably merit for it. I'm not saying that. However, I think you need to be super cautious about how you're throwing rocks and how big the rocks are, because they might have a fucking boulder they're about to launch at you. So throw rocks with caution, especially if you're living in a glass house. Maybe like get tiny little pebbles just to make a sound, but don't smash the glass. Geez, that's the good analogy, isn't it? I'll write that one down. Throw pebbles, not stones. If you live in a glass house, make a sound, but don't smash the glass. Yeah, so that's the thing. Throw rocks, but use with caution, and be prepared for some flack that might fly your way, basically. All right, call out the bullshit when you see it. If you see bullshit, call it out. It's okay to disagree with things. You can do it respectfully as well. You don't have to be a dick about it, but call it out. All sorts of stuff. I see it all the time. There was a post added here recently, and I've decided not to comment on it because I don't want to shit on the person individually, but it was something I strongly disagreed with. And maybe I should call it out. Maybe I should speak my own advice. God damn it, I will. Nah, I won't in that regard, because the thing is, I don't want to quash someone's efforts. That's the thing, right? But I also disagree with the context of this particular piece of content. Anyway, but call it out. Like if you do disagree, and do as I say, not as what I do. What a fucking hypocrite, Jamie. But on jokes aside, there's a time and place as well, and this comes back to the throw rocks at your enemy thing as well. You got to use it with caution. This one in particular, I could probably throw a pretty big fucking boulder at it, to be honest. But I was like, I don't want to like just crap on someone's efforts. So anyway, but do call out the stuff when you see it, because what tends to happen is, and you'll see it when you're engaging all the time on Facebook, and you go scroll down your posts and you're getting like a whole bunch of stuff that are really supportive. And I'm not saying don't be supportive of people, because you'll get like, oh, it's a value post, great post, blah, blah. And some of the time it is, but it's also some of the time people just haven't bothered to read it, or they've got an automation software that spits out a random comment, whatever the case may be. But if you take the time and you can craft a response that contradicts what they've put out, in a way that isn't abusive to that person. It's not about shitting on people. It's like literally just, I don't agree with this. These are the reasons why. You got to back it up as well. So anyway, that's another one. And attack the weaknesses. So attacking the weaknesses isn't about going out there and going, all right, who can I piss off today? What content can I create that is going to piss off as many people as possible? And if you're comfortable with that, then maybe go fill your boots, but I'd probably encourage you not to be honest. However, attacking the weaknesses is, think about the mindset stuff in particular. This is the big thing. People's belief systems, people's ideals, people's common ways of thinking of things. Attack those weaknesses. And again, don't rely on this. Like if your entire content game is just like biffing rocks and basically being a prick, then probably not going to go that far. But it's okay on a sporadic occasion to call out the weaknesses, and add contrary. And this is probably comes off the back of that. So add contrary. So if a common way of doing things and seeing things is, you need a list to be successful online. Well, that's bullshit. You don't. I'm living proof. I've got a tiny list. And that's contrary to what most people think, because they get sold this idea. Well, you need a list. You need a list to make money online. That's it. List is the best thing you can have. Maybe it is. I strongly disagree with that, and hence why I think that's contrary to the popular belief there. So anyway, hopefully it's helped. If you'd like some help in your business and you're tired of all the bullshit, you want to ramp up what you're doing next year, go to jgcall.com. feel free to check out the free case study I've got there. There is also an option of booking a time to chat with myself. We can go through your goals, what you're stuck on, what you'd like to achieve, and we can work out whether we're a good fit to work together. So, with all that being said, I'm going to scoot over to the old Facey, see what I got, see if we've got any questions there. Tough crowd. Thanks for joining me, guys. Really appreciate it. You're welcome, man. You've incorporated a lot of this stuff already, man. You do it really well. Because you learn from the best. Just kidding. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go and enjoy my Sunday evening. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you got some value from this. For everyone who's on the old YouTubes, feel free to smash that like and drop a comment. Let me know if you got any thoughts from this. And yeah, look forward to catching up with you guys in the next one. Thanks very much. Cheers.